Hey everybody, I'm JJ Johnson. You're watching Reality Survival, and today I'm going to answer another viewer's question. This question comes from Razor Goldman, and he says, JJ, what do you think other countries will do if SHTF happens here? Will they help us, attack us, just sit back and watch? Can you do a video explaining it in more detail? Thank you for your time. So I think this is a pretty interesting question, so I will just try to throw out some thoughts on it. I don't really have any notes or anything like that. This is just sort of, thoughts off the top of the head. So the first thing is that it obviously depends on the nature of what SHTF is. But let's assume that it's pretty bad. So let's go with like an EMP or something. We'll start off with that scenario. I was recently reading a book. I think it was the last in the Angry American Home series, and I think that's where it was from. And he basically said, it may have been another book. I can't remember if it was that or not. But anyway, the United States was attacked with an EMP. And then their response was to just attack everybody else and make sure. I wish I could remember where this is from, but it doesn't really matter. And then the U.S.'s response was to attack everybody else on the planet so that basically we all go back to the Stone Age and it's an equal playing field for everyone. I don't have any access to any war plans or anything of this nature, so this is just my opinion, but that's probably not too far from the potential feasible truth. Because I don't think that we would just not respond to something like that. So chances of other countries being able to get anywhere or anything like that effectively, if we did respond in kind all over the place, that would pretty much shut that down. So, because basically an EMP is like a first strike. It's kind of a mutually assured thing. If you do that to another country, it's going to happen back to you, at least to you, if not other people. So I thought that was an interesting concept. But let's go with something different. Let's go with, something that is maybe like, I don't know, maybe a famine or, grid down because of cyber attack or, something like that caused a whole lot of problems, and there's, lawlessness and all that kind of stuff all over. I think that most of the countries in the world don't have the military capability to even get any of their troops outside of their own country. So there's really only a handful of countries that actually have the capability to move their troops outside of their country. You've got China, you've got Russia, you've got India, and then there's our allies like Australia, New Zealand, all those, and I don't really worry about those. India, I think, would be a pretty steadfast ally, so I don't see them doing anything except for offering aid. However, China and Russia would probably rush to send troops to help the security situation, maybe through the guise of the UN or maybe not. But their ultimate goal would, I really don't think that they would try any kind of an invasion, okay? They would try to come here under the auspices of helping, and then their ultimate goal would be to basically do intelligence preparation at the battlefield. They're going to be doing covert operations and finding out, where the strong areas are and those kinds of things, and then they're going to be sowing discontent. They're going to be, running covert ops to cause trouble and stir things up even more to the point where they would feel like they could then take some territory, and that would probably be a year's years-long struggle in the case that this could ever happen. Now, and if you guys watch this channel, you know that I don't believe that this is any sort of likelihood that could ever really happen. We're talking about in theory here. Now, the problem that they would end up running into is that the civilian populace is so armed here, they would never be able to follow through with what their ultimate goals were, of trying to achieve any kind of stakehold in a property. I don't believe it would even be possible. But they may give it a shot, and they may covertly try to stir up trouble, frustrate efforts that are, for ongoing repairs and different things like that, keep shipping, lines from getting in to bring supplies, different things that they could conceivably do that they could keep kind of low key, if that makes any sense whatsoever. I don't know. Like I said, I'm just kind of streaming this off the top of my head as I'm thinking about it. I think that there would be quite a few efforts from some of the larger European countries and some of the more stable second world countries and stuff around the world to send aid supplies and those kind of things, because they're going to want to win favor with the U.S. government, whoever that is at the time, because of the strong likelihood that we would recover from whatever it is. The United States is a very, very resilient country. A lot of people, a lot of preppers think that the United States is really fragile, and that's just not the case. We are not a fragile country as many people think. Capitalism has a way of building in resiliency and redundancy that most other countries just don't have, especially socialist countries and that kind of stuff. So anytime that there are, big failures and that kind of stuff in the capitalist countries, that is seen as an opportunity to reestablish, start new services, make new money, all those kinds of things. So it's a very resilient system. That being said, I think a lot of those second world countries would offer a lot of aid and a lot of supplies and a lot of food and medical services and those kinds of things, in hopes of winning favor, so that when everything got stood back up, then they would have a preferred status. The other thing is that third world countries are dependent on the United States in way of foreign aid and those kinds of things, and to some degree on imports and exports that they make money from us. But second world countries are very, very much intertwined in our economy. When you look at the amount of their GDP, their gross domestic products, that are involved in some sort of commerce that touches the United States, there's a lot of intermixing there. And so those countries are going to have a big, big interest in the United States staying a viable country, and they're going to help quite a bit, I think. It's the other big powers that are close to being superpowers, like China and Russia, that we would have to worry about frustrating that process and that help and those kind of things. Again, I don't think that they would ever try an out-and-out invasion or anything like that. And it's not because the military, it's because of the citizens and the armed citizenry. We are a massive existential threat to any force that tries to invade us. And everybody's heard the quote from Yamamoto and all that. But the other thing is that the other thing that would stop China and Russia from doing an invasion is that militarily our forces are spread throughout the world. Okay, and that's not by accident, that's by design. So even if there was a big EMP or some, whatever, solar flare, or whatever the case may be, some bad thing happening in the United States, we still have a ton of Navy all over the world. We have Air Forces all over the world. We have, significant numbers of Army troops, in places around the globe. And that, they still are going to have the capability to be mobile, to be involved, to stop, troops from coming through, and stuff like that. So if China and Russia were going to be involved, it would have to be through the guise of helping to assist with security and to reestablish order. That would be the way that they would get here. Once they were here, then they'd frustrate the process through covert means and stuff like that. That's my best guess. So as citizens, I think one of the worst things that we could ever do is allow them to ever set foot on the soil. Keep them out at all costs, in my opinion. We can fix our own problems. We can handle our own security. We don't need any kind of foreign troops or anything like that. No matter what their olive branch is that they're offering, and I think that the citizenry would stand up and do that on its own. And you guys who have watched me for a long time, you know that I'm much more optimistic than most people on how people will act. Truly bad people, psychopaths are essentially 1 in 1,000. The vast majority of people are good-hearted people who want to live in civil society, and they're going to do what they can to get that back. Normalcy bias works in 2 different ways. One, it will keep you from seeing that the situation has gone bad. But 2, it's also a very strong motivator. Once you see that the situation is bad and you've opened your eyes to it, it's also a very strong motivator for people to get back to the normal situation. So it works both ways. Normalcy bias is not just a bad thing. So I think that people will come together. There will be a period of turmoil and a lot of chaos and all those kinds of things. If there was some big nationwide thing, I think that would be true, especially in big city centers. Now, the further you are from a city center, the less and less that's going to be, I think. But anyway, that's kind of off the topic of the video. So that is pretty much what I think other countries would do. I don't think that we would see any sort of invasion or anything too significant like that. It could be possible, I suppose, that we could see Mexico try to do a little bit of a land grab on the southern border, but I don't think that's a real strong possibility. But it's something that kind of entered my mind when thinking about this. They may try to, grab some land back or something, but then they've got Texas to deal with, so that's probably not going to work out so well for them. So, anyhow, that's pretty much my thoughts on it, just what I can think of off the top of my head. Hopefully it was useful, and I would be curious to see what you guys think would happen if there was a big SHTF event in the United States. How would the other countries react? What do you think they would do? Put that in the comments below. As always, guys, I definitely appreciate it when you click the thumbs up button, when you share it with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+. And don't forget to live the 6 Ps. Prior preparation prevents poor performance. Stay safe, guys.